The encounter that changed the course of my life was when I met the divine feminine in Dubai, who's also the bride of Christ. The Christ that we're expecting, the Jesus Christ that we're expecting is actually right here, right now, as we speak.
Hi, my name is Yomi. What's yours?
My name is Oluwaseun Johnson.
Oluwaseun, can you tell me an encounter that changed the course of your life?
Cut.
Yep, that's me. And you're probably wondering how I got into that situation, how a question like that found me, how a camera ended up pointed in my direction, how a moment like this didn't feel accidental at all. So let me invite you in. This is the scroll of the witness and the listeners. Be my guest. My meeting with the divine feminine didn't change the course of my life. That expression doesn't capture the efficacy. It did something way deeper. It snapped everything into divine order. For years, my life read like scattered chapters without a title, moments without explanation, battles without witnesses, signs without instruction manuals. Then, in Dubai, the script flipped itself in a single breath. It wasn't that the meeting rewrote me. It revealed what had already been written about me. It didn't divert my path. It illuminated it. Every strange moment stitched itself together. Every hardship found its place. Every childhood trauma stopped floating in isolation. Nightmares, whispers, near misses, near-death experiences, patterns I couldn't name at the time. All of it collapsed into coherence. That was the instant my purpose stopped being a feeling and crystallized into a mandate. The moment my entire life locked into source alignment. And in that flash of recognition, I knew something with terrifying clarity. I just stepped into the second most important day of my existence. The day I discovered why I'm in this timeline and good to go. This isn't me trying to clear the air. The air is already thick with the male witness current. This is not regular content, not motivation, not spiritual entertainment. This is another fragment of the male witness codex. And this code is set to do two things, only two, but they are heavy. First, to show you that there are no coincidences, that everything is connected. Second, to reveal, quietly, unmistakably, that we're living inside a simulation and the Exodus is not metaphorical anymore. It's literal. Since I've been back in Nigeria, I've been telling my story, not as a brand strategy, not as damage control, but because once you see the pattern, silence becomes a form of entropy. And entropy left unattended corrupts signals. I've been sharing my encounter with the divine feminine while reaching out to creators across borders, cultures, and algorithms. Anyone willing to hold the message long enough for it to pass through. Not because it makes me look sane, not because it sounds heretical enough to trend, but because the truth doesn't wait for consensus. The goal was simple: expose the truths you didn't even know existed. That's when I started seeing Yomi's content. Not all at once, not dramatically, just enough for something in me to register. This could be the platform. But I don't move by sight, so I asked for a sign. And the sign came on the 5th of November 2025 at exactly 8:13 p.m. What? If you don't speak numbers, that may sound arbitrary. If you do, you already know this isn't casual. 5, the number of the divine feminine. 8, infinity, the eternal loop formed when feminine and masculine sum into balance. And 13, the bridge number, the one the system taught you to fear. 13 is the 13th zodiac, Ophiuchus, the hidden bearer, the one outside the 12. It's the 5th element moving through form. It's the number that connects revelation to embodiment. Or as I've said before, 13 is the bridge number between masculine revelation and feminine embodiment. The sign didn't announce itself. It's aligned. Here's the part that always gets interesting. The message came through a former work colleague, a close friend, a business partner from Dubai, one of the many people who witnessed my journey with the divine feminine firsthand. He sent me a post, one of Yomi's interviews, and the moment I saw it, I knew, not emotionally, not intellectually, energetically. It was an old frequency resurfacing because the moment finally matched the prophecy. That was the receiver getting the signal. I reached out to Yomi 11 days later, Sunday the 16th of November 2025, 11, the male witness birth code. You're going to see it a lot as this scroll unfolds. The digits of the date sum to 9, completion, a cycle closing before something irreversible begins. I sent him my email and a direct message on TikTok. It landed at 10:05 a.m. Add the digits, you get 15. 5, again, showing up in 3 positions, the feminine. 3, the masculine. The dance continues. He responded about 4 hours later at exactly 2:07 p.m. Summed the digits again, 9, completion echoing itself. Not because I forced meaning onto time, but because time kept volunteering meaning. We exchanged a few more messages. The last one I sent confirming availability to shoot 2 days later, Tuesday the 18th November 2025, landed at exactly 8:44 p.m. If you followed my work, you already know. 844 is one of the strongest numeric anchors in the male witness timeline. It's the code tied to the confirmation of the adversarial revelation in this age. It's also the activation timestamp, 8:44 p.m., April 27, 2025, outlined in the fivefold path, the scroll map of remembrance for the end-time scroll bearers. That scroll breaks down the last 5 years of conflict in a 144-year war between the church and the adversarial system, first revealed in a vision to Pope Leo XIII on October 13, 1884. But that's not what we're unpacking here. Just know this: alignments repeat because truth is consistent. Pope Francis, one of the rulers of darkness of this era and the third node in an unholy trinity, died on April 21st, 2025 at exactly 88 years of age, a mirror of 844. And who occupies the seat now? Pope Leo XIV. Yes, that's a Pandora's box right there, but not today. This wasn't coincidence. It wasn't luck. The fact that Yomi responded after I received my own confirmations tells you something subtle but important. He recognized the frequency subconsciously. Creators with millions of views don't open doors randomly. They respond when something in your field strikes them like a tuning fork. The next day, November 17th, 2025, his first message to me landed at exactly 1:44 p.m. I wish I were exaggerating. Like some already know, 144 isn't a number. It's a frequency, a blueprint, the Christ constant. It's the primary anchor of the male witness codex. 12,000 from 12 tribes, not imposters, chosen ones. Romans 8:19 puts it plainly. Creation waits for the revealing of the sons of God. Revelation 21:17 measures the New Jerusalem wall at 144 cubits, a divine cubic signature carved into the city that descends, not the one built by men. The divine feminine entered this timeline on the 14th of April, 144. The divine masculine on the 14th of November, 1411. Mirror codes. Sum 144 and you get 9. Completion again. The witness current doesn't stutter. I replied at 4:37 p.m. that same Monday. We moved to the green app. The digits still aligned. 14. 5 again. Yomi just wanted to confirm I'd be available to shoot the next day. I said yes. The following day, Tuesday, November 18th, 2025, the day of the interview, I left home early, not out of anxiety, out of knowing. Arrived 9 minutes before the appointed time of 2 p.m. 9 again. Completion doesn't rush. He arrives early and waits. What was about to happen wasn't a regular interview. It was a cosmic declaration wearing the costume of conversation. And then the sky responded. As soon as I reached the location, it started raining. Not drizzle, not coincidence rain. Rain with timing. I walked into the mall as a man, but the rain greeted me as a sign. Baptism doesn't always come with ceremony. Sometimes it just shows up and soaks the path. Yomi and I were communicating back and forth, but the rain delayed everything. Recording didn't begin until sometime between 3:30 and 4 p.m. Delays are not denial when the moment is coded. As the interview unfolded, something strange began to happen. I kept forgetting what I was saying mid-sentence. I'd pause, ask Yomi to repeat the question, sometimes even check my own videos for answers. That wasn't normal. And it wasn't surprising. When the message is real, interference shows up. If the story were empty, no force would waste energy scrambling memory, dimming recall, or choking articulation. Attacks only arrive when something is being transmitted. People have no idea the battle it takes to stand where I stand or the scale of the spiritual transition humanity is undergoing right now. I don't say that lightly. By the time we were done, even Yomi was shaking, not impressed, shaking. He had no idea he had just filmed a scroll activation in human form. Still waiting to hear his side of the story because nobody brushes that level of energy without ripples on their end. And as if the Ether wanted to sign its name across my timeline, the ancient night bread ritual found me on the 22nd of November 2025, 2211, the mirror of 1122, the number that stalks my destiny like a celestial shadow. The ritual was 448, the inverse of 844, the thunder code governing my activations. I breathed it in and saw the symmetry. 844 calls the lightning, 448 calls the rain, and true to the scroll, the sky opened the very moment I arrived for the interview. The numbers began flipping themselves like secret doors. 844 became 448, 1122 becomes 2211. Reversible codes, proof that the cosmos has been speaking bidirectionally all along. I'm not forcing meaning. I'm walking the corridor where echoes finally learn to answer the calling. 844 is thunder, 448 is rain. One announces, the other heals. My life has always been wired to both. Welcome to the circus if you still think my life is a joke. This is me witnessing signs. This is me entering a synchronization field in ghost mode, transcending timelines in real time. Call it my moment of Kairos. The following day, Sunday, November 23rd, 2025, I was on a call with a soul brother, another living witness of the witness. We were talking about the interview when I decided to check Yomi's page. The video had been posted 39 minutes earlier. And guess what? It was exactly 5 days after filming. It was the 5th video from the exact video my friend had sent to me initially on the 5th of November 2025. 5 again, showing up in 3 positions again. It already had 1,200 views and the comments were lighting up. Shock, confusion, mockery, recognition, people reacting to the vibration, not the message, because the story is too coded, too layered, too orchestral for a 6-minute interview. When consciousness is small, revelation looks like insanity. But for me, backlash is confirmation, ridicule is resonance, mockery is measurement. By the end of this video, the systems would have calmed itself or revealed itself. How do I feel? Exactly how I expected to feel, but terrified, not by reaction, by realization. The vast majority of humanity is obliviously living under diabolical influence without ever seeing a demon. Mind control, predictive programming, religious indoctrination disguised as doctrine, the dumping down of the highest order, now paired with brain-rot content and psychological operations masquerading as trends, shadow agents wearing influencer skins. 10 days later, December 3rd, 2025, the current thickened as the interview kept rippling across the streams of TikTok and IG. Q Boxley, the same creator who once served as bridge to Rich B's Vampire Lord, dropped the video. Jesus and Mary, Hidden Sacred Union, Offspring, Vatican Suppression. I don't know if you saw my interview or simply tuned into the same frequency. I don't need to know. The timing was too precise to dismiss. It was through Cube that I first encountered Rich B's meeting with Signore M, a remnant of an ancient lineage tied to Sodom and Gomorrah. The harmony between Rich B's story and my encounter with the divine feminine was already heavy with signs, synchronicities, numeric anchors, and pattern time. The male witness perspective and the male witness overview trilogy mapped those alignments openly, strong enough to draw eyes once before. So this return to the sacred union narrative wasn't noise. It was continuity of the unfolding arc. And the thread stretched further back. About a week before the Yomi interview, towards mid-November, I stumbled onto a live broadcast from Seun Kuti. Same topic, hidden union of Jesus and Mary. When I traced the source, I discovered it had been posted on the 11th of November 2025, 11/11. The same number sequence tied to Seun's birthday, 11/01. The same birthday I met him on back in 2019. That first meeting happened on January 11th, 2019, exactly 9 days before my departure to Dubai on January 19th, 2019. Fast forward 6 years. Now it's 11/11/2025, and I see him speaking publicly about a topic directly linked to my personal experience in Dubai 8 days before my interview on November 18th, 2025. And the pattern doesn't still break. 11 is still a constant. This is the 8, not random. 8 days between signal and declaration. 8, the sum of feminine and masculine. Infinity, new beginning. 11, the male witness birth code. 19, the activation. Time wasn't repeating, it was folding. He cited the book, The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, by Michael Bygant, Richard Lee, and Henry Lincoln. And there it was again, the same sacred lineage narrative, resurfacing through different mouths, different years, same current. Another alignment, another signature, another whisper that the story is writing itself. This pattern isn't new. It's been whispering to us for decades, sometimes loudly enough to shake the world, yet always framed as fiction so we wouldn't take it personally. When the Da Vinci Code dropped, it wasn't just a runway bestseller, it was a controlled leak. Not because it was clever storytelling, but because it carried a forbidden truth smuggled under the label of entertainment. They didn't censor it, they monetized it, turned it into a blockbuster, wrapped it in cinema, controlled the narrative while letting the idea breathe just enough to survive. Sacred union, bloodline, divine feminine erased, disguised, and buried. They tell us these things in films, in novels, in symbols braided through pop culture like riddles left by the architects of the age. And we dismiss them as coincidence, creative liberty, harmless fiction. Meanwhile, the real story has been living inside our lives, tracking itself through ancestors, encounters, dates, codes, and destinies. The prophecy was never hiding. We were trained not to see. Even scripture speaks in the language of marriage, because some truths require intimacy to be understood. Paul writes of presenting the church as a chaste bride in 2 Corinthians 11. And if you're listening closely, you'd notice the number doesn't break the pattern. 11 again, witness code. The same chapter later warns of deception disguised as light. Pay attention to how often the truth tells you where it's going to be attacked. Revelation doesn't shout blindly. It leaves fingerprints. Then there's the vision of the New Jerusalem coming down out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Revelation 21. not built, descending, not institutional, relational. For centuries, that feminine language was flattened, read institutionally, the church as building, as crowd, as abstraction. Doctrine shaped the metaphor down until the marrow disappeared. But prophecy resists flattening. The pronouns, the bridal rites, the parable of the virgin and bridegroom, they read like testimony, not allegory for bureaucracy, but encounter. A living feminine presence meeting the beloved. To insist the bride is only a legal fiction or a faceless congregation is to miss the marrow of the metaphor. Marriage is not a spreadsheet. Union is not an institution. The metaphor invites relationship, not administration. The male witness asks a dangerous question, not to scandalize, not to sexualize, but to restore balance. If scripture uses her, who is she? Not to chip in the text, but to honor its depth, not to provoke outrage, but to listen where the language itself points. Because mysteries aren't solved by shouting, they are solved by presence. And this goes way beyond religion, beyond politics, beyond manufactured division. It bleeds directly into our personal lives. If the powers that be could erase, distort, and bury the image and history of the most important entity in this cosmic realm, what do you think they have done to you? The disappearance of the divine feminine was not an accident. It was rehearsal. People threw around words like matrix and simulation without understanding what they are actually pointing at. So, listen carefully. What I'm about to explain doesn't unravel the whole system, but it exposes the mechanism at its core. The very thing that holds us bound to this fabricated reality. The trap was never brute force. It was the law. The very thing sold as protection became the instrument of capture. Rules meant to organize society quietly hardened into architecture of control. The irony is surgical. You're about to hear the most important part of this message. In essence, the system and entity governing your mentality is built and sustained on fraud. No theatrics, no conspiracy cosplay. Erie Railroad Company versus Tompkins in 1938. Do your research. With receipts, I came. And here's where the pattern tightens. Quietly, unmistakably. That ruling didn't land in time. It landed on time. 1938. The same year Fela Anikulapo Kuti was born. The man whose music would later become a weapon against institutional fraud, colonial residue, and mental occupation. Long before the language existed to describe it cleanly. Now flip the last two digits. 38 becomes 83. 1983. The birth year of his son, Seun Kuti. And my birth year too. A mirror code. Same numbers. Different orientation. Still summing to 11. 1911. The witness number, birth code and activation. So what you're looking at isn't coincidence, it's continuity. 1938 marks the legal exposure of the fiction. 1983 marks the embodiment of resistance to it. Father and son, law and countercurrent, judgment and witness, same numeric spine, same frequency, different roles in the same long sentence history has been writing. Even the names echo, namesakes, messengers, uncomfortable mirrors for systems built on silence. The ruling, the lineage, the witness, not separate events, but synchronized points in a single pattern unfolding across generations. And once you see that, you understand why certain people are born into resistance without training for it. Some assignments don't need instruction, they arrive encoded. Let me be precise here because precision matters. That court ruling in 1938 didn't invent the illusion, it exposed it. What every railroad company versus Tompkins really did was strip away comforting myth. The belief that there existed some higher neutral universal law automatically protecting the individual. What it revealed was colder and cleaner. There is no floating general law, no invisible shield that steps in on your behalf simply because you exist. The system does not recognize beings, it only recognizes persons. And person is not who you are, it's how you are processed by the system. Participation became consent, silence became agreement. Identity didn't vanish, it was abstracted. Not by nature, by jurisdiction. That's the mechanism. Once you see that, the rest stops sounding like conspiracy and starts reading like administration. Religion designed this cage. Then it was repurposed as the guard tower. Faith became permission. Doctrine became delay. Salvation became outsourcing. And still, every scripture they quote keeps whispering sovereignty to anyone willing to read with unborrowed eyes. Identity theft always has an expiration date. The divine feminine isn't returning. She's reclaiming authorship. And when one archetype remembers itself, the spell weakens across the field. That's why this moment feels loud, chaotic, emotionally charged. Truth doesn't whisper when it's been gagged for centuries. It kicks the door with a heavy bang. This isn't about fighting the system. That's amateur hour. This is about withdrawing mistaken content internally, knowing the difference between who you are and what you're called, understanding jurisdiction, spiritual, mental, legal, reclaiming authorship of identity before trying to save anyone else. You don't awaken people. You remember yourself loudly enough that others feel the echo. The fact that the church, specifically the Vatican, plays a central role in this deception tells you something really uncomfortable. The war was never against culture, never against belief, never against the body. It was against identity, against remembrance. When the self-appointed keeper of spiritual authority collaborates with legal and financial architectures that reduce living beings to dead entities, the objective becomes clear. Sever humanity from original being. Replace knowing with managed belief. This isn't a failure of faith, it's the hijacking of it. What was done to the divine feminine was never an isolated crime of history. It was the prototype. Erasure, renaming, silencing, institutional burial. The exact same pattern used on humanity itself. Essence replaced with titles, being replaced with permission, identity replaced with contracts. And just as the divine feminine is reclaiming her name, her voice, her place in the cosmic order, humanity now stands at the same threshold. This is why this moment matters. Knowing who you are is no longer optional. It's mandatory. 2026 is the exodus, not from land, from false identity. The return to original state has already begun. That interview wasn't just another spiritual story. It was a God-tier narrative bomb. A deep dive into the male witness encounter with the divine feminine, the bride revelation, destiny alignment, trauma meeting awakening, the real new world order, and codex level confirmations layered beneath the surface. And the signs didn't stop there. They never do. They bleed forward. Each scroll feeding the next, just as the earlier ones fed this moment. This is only the beginning. And trust me, you won't get to the ending of this epic, psychologically thrilling, futuristic, melodramatic, tragic-comic sci-fi without losing a few illusions along the way. Our life stories are being played back to us. They just blur the lines between truth and fiction. This may be my story, but it's yours too. You just don't know it yet. Patience is a virtue, yes, but doesn't the waiting get heavy? Suffer no they tire you. I'm telling my story. Tell yours too, because his story is a lie. Our story is the truth. For clarity, again, this is not content. This is the unfolding of a new reality on earth. I'm not a content creator. Call me a builder of the new world, a co-creator with source, an enigmatic creative of multi-dimensional realities, a true son of God, witness of the divine feminine. This is the convergence of the minority that controls the narrative that controls the nations. My message isn't for everyone, not yet. If it flies over your head, keep it moving, or stay and learn. I already have a 10-year assignment for those listening with their inner ears. Go check out the scroll sequence playlist on the Male Witness YouTube page. There's much already in motion and much more in the offing. Understand this. These are real accounts, real timestamps, real alignments, written as my life unfolds, not after. That's why they are anchored with screenshots, images, dates, and events I have absolutely no control over. Entropy loses when truth leaves receipts. And this is where the story stands now. The listeners on the one side, the witness on the other. Not another personality, but the moment itself about to unfold. I've spoken my part. The ripples are already moving. Now we watch what comes next. Because once a story like this enters the public stream, the world becomes the witness whether it's ready or not. The witness has come. Every revelation has three faces. The telling, the hearing, and the watching. The first two are done. The third has already begun. This is my truth. Decipher yours. The ascension is in progress. The exodus has begun. You're moving ahead if you're not getting left. Stay geared. Peace, love, gratitude, and highest vibration to all.